What's up, everybody? I'm Kev Kelm. This is WrestleZone coming to you right after Monday Night Raw. A pretty big one. Randy Orton got his eyeball burned out. Triple H came back for a big main event, and we got a lot to talk about. The WWE Champion, Drew McIntyre, is on the shelf with COVID-19. There's a lot of issues that we're going to get into, and of course, we're talking about the Royal Rumble. Oh, by the way, you could win these. You could win these. All right, that's right. A Roman Reigns, Daniel Bryan Elite action figure. You could win these. All right. You want to listen to this podcast, watch this podcast, look for the special key secret word. Only those that have the secret zone password could enter to win these before the end of January, before the Royal Rumble. You could be rumbling at home with these guys. Did anyone do this with their guys? Did you guys call them guys? Robert DeFelice is with us from Fightful. All right. And also from...
Wow, it's Robert from Fightful now.
It is.
Jeez.
That's true. John Clark is with us in Central PA.
From where? From
From WrestleZone. No, we're giving Robert trash. He's still very much actively with us at WrestleZone. We loan him out. We loan him out like a European soccer club. We let him go play in the off season with.
We sign the rights off to him.
All right, so for you guys watching this, our streaming provider is being silly, so we're taping the show here immediately after my Raw. So if you get it at your own leisure, thank you. Also, subscribe to the podcast. You can listen to these shows anytime you want in the podcast feed. We just dropped an interview with the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. That was just dropped in there. Plus, we'll have hours of audio every single week leading up to the Royal Rumble and well beyond. Let's get into this week's Monday Night Raw. Triple H is back. What did you think of Triple H? What did you think of it, Robert? He came out. He opened the show. He's the surprise addition to the show this afternoon after we learn the Drew McIntyre news, which we will get to in just a minute. But John, Robert, what did you think of Triple H's big opening promo? And, of course, he got to close the show in what was sort of a match with Randy Orton that was teased for 3 hours.
John, why don't you field this question first?
Oh, okay. Well, firstly, I want to say that I think that the reason this happened obviously was because of Drew and his COVID diagnosis, but I think more importantly is they were going head-to-head with the college football championship game tonight, which was a big deal for them. Luckily, it might have worked out. The game was very much a blowout, so the ratings might not be hit too hard, but I thought it was very interesting. When he came up to the ring, I was thinking about the different reasons they might have put him out. I thought maybe he would actually bring up the COVID stuff and maybe talk about, what they're dealing with. Or I thought maybe he would be building towards another rivalry or another match, which it looked like that was going to be the case for a while until it just kind of disappeared at the end. I'm okay with it. I guess for me, it appears like it was just going to be a one-night thing. Wasn't the best thing. I mean, Robert, what do you think?
It speaks volumes to me that they decided we need Triple H for this. Yes, I understand they're going up against a college football game, but anybody could have filled that role by the time you see what Triple H did at the end of the night. But there was a lot. There was at least 4 people worked double duty on this show. So it wasn't just Hunter working overtime. As far as Hunter's performance itself, it's very much like The Undertaker. It's very much like Sting. When you put a microphone in their hands, you go, oh, this is a television star on television being charismatic. Why don't the other guys do this? That's what I got from Hunter Hearst Helmsley tonight.
Well, I don't know if it's so much why don't the other guys do this, because you're starting to see some guys come in their own. I think Drew McIntyre now walks and talks like a big time star. Randy Orton has never lost that level of star power. There's some other guys where you just don't see them come into that just yet. So there's something to be said for that. So we don't follow Monday Night Raw by this segment, then this segment happened. Here's the big angle, and then we kind of work our way down. We'll talk about Drew McIntyre in a minute. We'll break away from Monday Night Raw. We'll break into different discussions, everything like that. But I enjoyed the opening promo in terms of how you get Triple H into a match randomly on a day of. I enjoyed what they tried the last minute of like, hey, we don't have Drew. We found this out. If they did find it out, it was within the last 72 hours, right? and they announced it this afternoon. And here's Triple H in this kind of like, literally, he said it in an interview recently, smash in case of emergency Triple H, right? And you got some physicality with him. He didn't come out dressed to wrestle like he was in a street fight, and did some stuff, and he had a flaming sledgehammer. Then he was out of nowhere. Then the lights go back off, and Randy Orton's in the ring with the Fiend's minion, Alexa Bliss. She throws a little Memphis trick at him, a little of that Memphis fireball. You didn't get to see it for long. They shot it from behind. It literally lasted. This was faster than a GIF, right, John? Like this went like
you easily could have missed it if you weren't paying attention. In fact,
if you blinked, you missed this fireball. I wish they would have shot it wide. It would have looked different.
Like the Undertaker lightning strikes that you do from the very wide angle.
Yeah, but they look cool. So who cares? You're throwing lightning. But it was definitely shot in a weird way. I was hoping at some point they were going to do this old trick. They've done this with a lot of different wrestling people before, and it's done badly. They did this with Hogan. Remember, Robert, I made you sit through that entire Halloween Havoc pay-per-view we did the watch along with?
Yeah, that fireball didn't go as smoothly as this one did. This was fine. I'm beginning to wonder what the payoff for all of this is. You know, you threw in the Triple H element. I think the key here is that Randy Orton is the anchor. We have anchored the show around one Randy Orton, and it's great. I think he's doing some of the best work of his career. I think Bliss feels inspired, but I feel like the program as a whole is disjointed. You know, it doesn't feel like they know where they're going or why they're going there.
That's fair. And I felt like they just I don't know if they were ready for this hit that they took today with Drew McIntyre. Because so much of Raw has been really built around him for a long, long time. And it felt like everything going into Royal Rumble, especially after last week when the show ended with him and Goldberg being faced off, and they're still treating that like that's a thing that's going to happen too. And you had the setback, and they rolled with the punches. And we'll kind of see that a lot tonight. There's a couple of other situations tonight where I was like, this isn't just the top of the card. Hey, we need a big star on the show because we lost Drew. So let's have Triple H step in. This is something I saw with a handful of other situations, which leads me into this other story where we diverge away from Raw for a moment. We have plenty of other things to talk about. Matt Riddle taking on Bobby Lashley for the United States Championship. Matches that end, that create other matches. All right? That was something that happened a lot tonight. And other things that Robert described as fine, I will also describe as fine. But let's talk about the biggest wrestling story of the day. Probably the biggest wrestling story we'll be talking about this week, if not next week. The WWE Champion, Drew McIntyre, has tested positive for COVID-19. This is a very serious situation. Obviously, if you've just been in a cryogenic chamber since February of 2020, you took a good year to take your chamber year, and let's unfreeze you here. We're in a global pandemic with a respiratory infectious disease, COVID-19, and he unfortunately has it. He said tonight on Monday Night Raw in two different film promos. One of them he acknowledged it, and WWE acknowledged it widely on social media. That he does indeed have it. And he said tonight that he is asymptomatic. He's fortunate. And he demands that fans wear their mask, keep their social distance, play it smart. He was vigilant. Look, it happened even to him. And what do you think here, John? This is pretty serious. Drew McIntyre on the shelf here. Even if he's just fine, he's going to be on the shelf for at least minimum of 2 weeks.
Yeah, it appears the earliest he's going to be able to come back would be the Raw on January 25th, which is the go home for Royal Rumble if everything goes well. But I think it's important to note, as has been the case with athletes before that have been asymptomatic, and we also heard this from one of the Young Buck members, this can affect you more than just, not feeling sick. I mean, cardio, getting back in shape, he needs to hope he doesn't run into any issues there because, let's not forget, he's going to be in the ring with Goldberg. Now, granted, it is scripted. However, Goldberg is still a very big guy. And he needs to be in shape for that. And I think this should be a wake-up call, not just to fans, because we already know how they've been telling fans to stay safe, but other wrestlers in the locker room. The reason I say that is because how many pictures did you see of the wrestlers having or at New Year's parties this year with no masks, just having the time of their life? And you have to wonder, how Drew got this. Obviously, we don't know that. We're not going to find that out likely. And how this could have affected possibly other people on the roster because
not just other people on the roster, their family. You know, their
Yes.
family and other people and different
So,
things.
and we don't know, in the coming days if anybody else is going to get it. I mean, Robert, you probably agree this is a pretty serious issue that Drew should take, be careful with.
Well,
Yeah. For anyone who has issues with whether COVID is real, it is real, and I know, Robert, you're in Florida where it's very, very real.
I know the people here don't act like it, and that's why you see half of the wrestling community, still having these outbursts because, like John very eloquently put, you see these pictures of people having the time of their lives over the course of New Year's, and what a surprise that Sean Ross Sapp, the Fightful Select, would say, hey, there's a huge outbreak coming, and it's not just WWE. It might be Impact. It might be AEW. There stuff is happening here. The issue that I have with this as a whole is one that I don't even know if it's worth taking a deep dive into, because I really feel like we are a year out, right? We're a year out. The first case in America was in January of last year.
Yeah.
It was last year that WrestleMania was thrown into shambles, and here we are 2 weeks before the Royal Rumble, and your WWE champion has COVID-19. To me, you have to have a wake-up call at some point that says, hey, we messed up. Let's take this seriously. Let's move forward, because what are you going to do? What are you going to really do?
Well, I think they have been.
We've heard how WWE addressed it. We've heard how they addressed it with different things, with amongst pressuring from some superstars. Most notably, Kevin Owens came out publicly and said, yes, I went to them and I said we should be doing more. And in the summer, after a period of time where people felt like they weren't doing enough and there was outbreaks and different things like that, they advanced testing, they advanced contact tracing, and all these different things. And they were quarantining certain people, and you'd be held in a certain area. And they want the NXT camp to be somewhere else. That's why we didn't see them involved in Survivor Series. That was something people were quietly, openly acknowledging. And you've had some wrestlers say they have COVID, saying it sometimes after they have it, well after they actually have it. And other superstars a little bit more okay about it. The company line we've heard is don't talk about COVID-19, but here's WWE talking about it, saying it, and your champion saying you have it. I don't think this is something they would have been open about 4 or 5 months ago. Now it's just a common reality. So is it just easier for them to talk about this now so openly than they could have maybe even in August?
I don't know. I wonder if Drew McIntyre may have said, hey, let me say this publicly.
Yeah, he's a guy who he's a guy who they trust. They could say, like, yeah, we're not going to tell you what you can and can't say. If you want to do that, go ahead. He's a guy who's earned that. He's earned that.
All of the news outlets would have probably found out anyway, but for them to do it publicly, I think they could have got away without saying it publicly, just because it was, as far as we know, only one person, and like you said, they've kept it quiet before. Mm-hmm. So I don't think there was necessarily a feel of urgency, but people may have questioned for a couple of weeks. Why isn't Drew here? Because he's been there like every week the past year. So for him not to be there 2 weeks in a row is a little bit of a red flag. But I don't think this was like a must-do thing. And I agree. Drew might have brought this up himself.
Yeah, but John, this in this day and age, if someone's away from anything for 2 weeks, people ask questions. And then those questions become, well, was I around that person? Was someone who's a health risk around that person? Could someone who be around that person be asymptomatic?
He was face to face with Goldberg last Monday. So
yeah. Oh, is Goldberg a senior citizen? Is that what we're going for there?
Well, I did it in the other place, but I'll say it here too. The WWE champion who's diagnosed with COVID-19 agreed to face an elderman, a senior citizen, perhaps, for the WWE Championship live on pay-per-view. This isn't like it's stupid. I'm sorry, it's dumb. It's really, really dumb. At what point do you just go, hey, we got to do something else here? We gotta take a week off. I dare you.
Robert's New Jersey accent's coming out right now.
I dare you to take a week off. Don't you dare. say that I am from New York.
Well, he's right because Ric Flair was there tonight again. I thought there's no way he would be there. He was there.
No, I not only is Ric Flair there, but like we're not respecting the virus. And at some point, you just gotta say, well, then you're inviting these terrible circumstances. And no, nobody wants to say that about anything in life. But when you're not respecting the virus, when you're routinely just saying, all right, well, we'll work around this because everything is fluid and we have to continue putting smiles on faces. You know what put a smile on my face? Concern and respect for the virus. And yes, I like that we have a WWE champion who says, hey, let me go out and say that this happened to me, it can happen to you, put your mask on, follow social distancing protocols. But at the end of the day, this company, if they needed to, would go, all right, we're putting the belt on the line in the Rumble because Drew can't go. And we just keep going. How the hell are you going to do Royal Rumble in the middle of a pandemic? How are we going to work this?
It's going to take something bad happening for them to realize.
Well, here's the worry, though, Robert. We've already mentioned in this discussion. We'll go back to Raw here in a minute, everybody. And don't worry.
We're talking about Raw.
We're talking about Raw. We're talking about Raw, but we have two men who are going to be at the Royal Rumble that are in action figure form.
Both men took extended periods of time off due to COVID in the last 12 months.
Which was my next thing. Thank you, Robert, for stealing my segue here. Is you have big names in WWE that have said, I want to be away for a certain period of time to quarantine because I'm going to have a kid born. I'm going to have this. I want to get away from time from this. And with them not being on the road, it seems a lot more manageable to do that, doesn't it? With saying, we're not going to have to put you out there for house shows. You only have to be here for these dates. Let's come in and have you tape this. They could even tape things for Raw tonight, and we wouldn't know. You know what I mean? There could have been whole matches taped tonight. The ending of the show is obviously a tape thing, right? So I don't mind doing more of those things if you have to quarantine people and keep them separated for longer periods of time, but that gets harder when you're trying to keep the camps different. Also, is there something to be said for we should be running Raw and SmackDown in two different places? If it's about having two different crews, three different things, so we can keep people separated as much as possible. It's a challenge. And I'll give WWE this. They were open about this. They didn't say we're not going to talk about this anymore. They've advanced their testing. They're putting out fines for people not wearing masks properly and different things like that in different areas where they say people should be. And they're testing like crazy. And they caught this. And he says he's asymptomatic. I'll take his word at it. So that's where it stands. It's scary. When we hear about a more contagious strain of the virus, and there was an uptick. There was over 250,000 cases this weekend reported going into Monday. So it's scary. And if it sounds redundant, then you need to hear it again. Do everything you're being asked to do. Our grandparents gave up rubber on their bicycle tires for the war effort to fight in World War II. I think we can, put a mask on and do the right thing that we can and figure this out.
If it sounds redundant and you're of the opinion that you want to skip to the end, you are the reason that we haven't gotten to the end of this COVID pandemic in America. I watched Wrestle Kingdom. I was up at ungodly hours of the night last week watching a show taking place in Japan where, yes, there were rules. Yes, things were different. But there were still thousands of people there.
Thousands.
Japan respects the virus. And I just wish that we could somehow do this without the need for a great tragedy. We don't need any more great tragedy in 2021. It's January 11th, and I've had my fill. Please, let's just go into the future more responsibly.
John, any closing thoughts here on this whole COVID issue with WWE? Do you think they're doing a fair job? Do you think they're handling this the right way? Robert says we should just put the whole thing on pause for a while to try and catch up with it here.
Please.
Go ahead.
Well, I think they've been doing a decent job because we've been almost been a year. How many confirmed cases have we had in WWE?
That we know of,
probably
what? Well, Robert, that we know of, it's got to be more than 20, right? It has to be more than 20.
In WWE alone?
Yeah.
I don't know
separate since it started. I'm not saying 20 at a time, but I've heard I'm not going to confirm a number because a lot of people aren't public about it. Some people are.
Well, anyway, what I meant was it's been I think, good enough where you can say they've done a decent job. They've implemented protocols, likely because of Kevin Owens suggesting they should, Roman Reigns suggesting they should, and Sami Zayn suggesting they should. But they did, nevertheless. We don't know if they're still daily testing. I would assume they're probably not, but who knows? And they are just going to keep doing their thing because that's I hate to say that's Vince and Vince does what Vince does, but they're still a business. They're still going to run weekly, and they're going to do what they can to stay on TV. And we're just going to see how safe they can be with this is a very important time of the year for them. They can't be this is like right now if an NFL team has a breakout, I mean that's season ending right there.
Yeah.
WWE can't have a massive outbreak leading up to WrestleMania. That won't be good.
Oh, don't tell me about an NFL season. My loathsome Chicago Bears are just losing it in the Nickelodeon wildcard game.
Shouldn't have even been there.
The Nickelodeon wildcard game. Talk about gimmicks, Robert. Did you get to see any of the Nickelodeon wildcard game this weekend?
I can't wait until we're doing the Super Slime SmackDown at WrestleMania because we just don't have people. So we've resorted to, hey kids, it's SpongeBob versus whomever in the Super Slime SmackDown at WrestleMania 37.
And the thing is, they would actually get slimed, not this let's put a Snapchat filter on the screen and slime people. No.
So what's going to happen is the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are going to fight Retribution. It'll be great.
Turtles are going over. Come on.
Turtles. Different podcast entirely.
All right. John said, we're 20 minutes in. I can give away the password, right? We're 20 minutes in. I can give away the password. So we have these very, very cool, very, very hard to get nowadays, elite action figures. So if you love WWE action figures, get a load of that. We got the Daniel Bryan. We got the Roman Reigns with his Universal belt. You got two different heads. You get the long-haired one, and then you get the other long-haired Daniel Bryan, which is pretty sweet. All right. So you can win these. And here's how we're going to do it. Every day, we're going to give away a secret password. So only people that listen and watch the show and pay attention to the show get that password and know what email to send it to. All right. And that's the only way you can enter. And we'll ramble them up. Then we'll get 30 names. We'll do one big drawing. Then we'll do 30 names. All right. Just like the Royal Rumble. And then we will select two people. And those two people will win one of those action figures. So we'll get into it. So what is that secret password? What is that email? The password, because a fireball was thrown on this week's Monday Night Raw, is Fireball. All right? That is FIREBALL. For you listening on the podcast, Fireball, all one word. And you want to send that to WrestleZone Social at gmail.com. That is WrestleZone Social at gmail.com. All right? They do not give that password away. Only you. Just remember, we're making a Christmas story. Only you get that secret password, all right? And I want to thank the people that listen to the podcast. And if you want to have a better shot at it, here's the thing. You only get 4 shots this month. I'll be keeping track. We have the Excel spreadsheet and all that good stuff. So you get 4 shots at this. And if you listen to the show all the time, this is you get 4 opportunities at these action figures. And if you're a first-time listener, jump in. All you have to do is email Fireball is today's password, to WrestleZoneSocial at gmail.com. And you get that because you listen and watch the show. Let's get back into Monday Night Raw. We had several other big angles on Monday Night Raw and several other curious absences as well, didn't we, with this COVID issue? They're a little worrisome, aren't they? We saw this gimmick go to several times. We had Sheamus and Keith Lee. They had a backstage promo. They formed a tag team. They took on Miz and Morrison. That match was successful, only for them to break out into a brawl and then get into their own singles match, which was also pretty cool. That tag match that first started off, though, they broke the turnbuckle. What do you think of that? Wasn't that crazy, John? Did you see them break that turnbuckle? Do you think that was legit? Because everyone was debating online tonight whether or not Keith Lee smashing into John Morrison actually broke a turnbuckle.
I don't think that was a planned part of the show, but looking at Lee's reaction and just the way it happened and the ring personnel working on it, it looked like it was completely on the spot, random, not staged type of deal. Robert, do you agree?
I think anything is possible. When I look at an incident like that, I got to go with it had to be a real thing. But of course, anything is possible.
I mean, they cut the commercial right away. Right away it happened. So,
and you're dealing with a monster like Keith Lee. I mean, sometimes things like that are bound to happen.
You know, that's one of those novice things in wrestling. Like, do you get in trouble if that happens? Like, if you just do that and like something gets broken on the ring, I assume you get in some trouble if it's egregious or something like that. But let's also get into Ric Flair being Ric Flair here in a second. We'll talk about him. Woo! Now, this is the first, though, this Sheamus Keith Lee thing. I thought they had a fine match with Morris and Miz, them flopping around there playing goofballs. Miz doesn't feel dangerous at all without the briefcase. What does the briefcase even mean if the champion can't leave his house? So they get to this second match where Sheamus is always trying to be everyone's buddy, but then turns on them. And him and Keith Lee have this brawl. They have had matches, single matches on TV before recently in the past few months that were a lot better than this one. There was just some malfunction at the junction, but a lot of fun trash talk from Keith Lee saying things like, you're tough now? After he's like chopping the crap out of him. What do you think of Keith Lee? He wins this match. Big spirit bomb. They work his leg. There were some clunky parts in this match. John Clark, Keith Lee's coming up, but there are a little bit of stumbles before he gets to the Rumble, right?
Yeah, I think he's going to have a very good build-up. I think he's going to be a prominent person in the Rumble match. When it comes to the Royal Rumble, I like to, for some reason, compare him to Kane in the Royal Rumble because I think he's going to be a Kane-type figure in the Rumble match. And what I mean by that is he's going to be one of those final four in the match for years to come, I think, just because, you know, he's that good in the ring. He can last fairly long, and if he did win, I mean, it wouldn't be a surprise. I mean, you know, you could see it happening, but I think he's going to have a successful build, but I'm not sure what his quote-unquote WrestleMania program is going to be yet.
We've heard big things about him at WrestleMania. Keith Lee, Robert, he was buried, right? Didn't everyone say that he was buried?
And no, it wasn't that he was buried. It was that he needed to learn how to wrestle. They sent him back to learn how to wrestle. That's what they did. Look, Keith Lee is my Raw pick for the Rumble right now. My overall pick is Daniel Bryan, but Keith Lee is my Raw pick right now.
I think that's a fair pick. And this was a fine match, but there was definitely some like clunky things in it, like transitionals or something. It was making me worried if someone was hurt in the match sometimes. But I enjoyed it. I think Keith Lee is looking good. He's owning his own, and he got to be in a promo segment backstage with Triple H later on, which is a sign that WWE definitely looks at him. And I got a sense of just terms of baby faces and heroes, he got a lot of shine tonight, you know? So later on in the night, we get Lacey Evans, Charlotte Flair. They bring up the tag team match where Charlotte was tagging with Asuka, her fellow tag team partner. They're the women's tag team champions. And last weekend, Ric Flair was there for Legends Night. He interferes, mistakenly tripping his own daughter, costing him the match. Charlotte goes off at him. She does this promo before she walks through the gorilla position and says all this stuff that, you know, it's 2020. Why are you still asking me about my dad? She gets in the ring with Lacey Evans, who's trying to woo her father, no pun intended. And then Lacey Evans cuts one of her great... She cuts promos like she's a character on Glow. Doesn't she always strike you as somebody that should be on the 80s women's wrestling show Glow? Like she feels like from a bygone era when she does this.
That's the vibe she gives off for sure.
Mm-hmm.
How old is Ric Flair?
Rick's got to be. He's in the 60s. Maybe 70. Maybe 70.
He might be 70 this year. Actually,
he's 71 right now.
He's 71 years old. All right. The man has been married not one, not two, not three, not four, 5 times.
Woo!
The man has been married
5 times paying the alimony.
As many times as Booker T captured the WCW World Heavyweight Championship. The man is currently with Fifi. You remember Fifi?
Mm-hmm.
That is currently his wife. Why on earth is the Southern Belle trying to drain the life force of this man in the same way that Al Wilson was drained of his life force by Don
Drain the life force.
Why is she trying to break Space Mountain down permanently? It does not need to be closed for permanent repairs. It might be a museum at this point, but let me tell you, it can tell some stories. I don't know why Lacey Evans wants to be the last to ride Space Mountain. That she's trying, okay? Now, here's the thing. Don't we think that Rick is a little too old to be putting his reindeer games above his daughter's profession?
I love John Clark a second ago was covering his face but had one eye open. Like so that leads to the match. I thought this was a fine match. Nothing super fantastic, but definitely told the story and raises the stock of Lacey Evans. And Rick comes out to the match, comes out and interferes, blatantly interferes, doing all of his dirty trick games, but not being a wrestler. Tries to trip his own daughter's leg, puts Lacey's leg on the rope to keep her from being pinned. And then eventually helps the roll finish here. And Lacey Evans gets the win, and Charlotte is so mad. John, where are they going? Why would Ric Flair want to cost his daughter a further shot at a championship?
I'm not quite sure. The original thought I had was this was all so Charlotte would turn heel, which I still think is the case. But I'm not sure what the whole Lacey Evans Ric Flair thing is.
Because she's a heel. Because she's a heel, right?
Yeah, she's a heel, but I think this is building up for her to turn on like Oscar or something in anger or something. I don't think it has anything to do with Lacey Evans, but that's what confuses me because I just don't get it.
I think that it's concerning for Charlotte that her father is still playing these games. And I feel
it's concerning for wife number 4. So.
It's concerning wife number 5, sir. Sure.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
That is number 5, and she, Wendy's just sitting at home going, "What the hell is this man doing?" Not only do I let him out of my sight in the middle of a pandemic, but then he's gonna go and try to get some sassy Southern bell.
Woo!
He's trying to ring that bell, and I don't know if Wondrous Wendy needs to know that Rick is trying to ring the bell.
Hey, Robert, just like some Monday Night Raw angles, he goes all night long.
That's
okay, there we go.
I think if Ric Flair goes all night long, we're gonna have a problem.
She did say that she wasn't going to change until she got to the hotel.
Oh God! Oh.
Did you not hear that promo? She said,
Hey, they say the senior citizens can't get out and have fun nowadays, with COVID. So I would say, Robert, you really have me going with that Space Mountain bit. All right, so we'll see where this goes. It's thumbs in the middle on that angle for sure. Let's get into what is going on. Elias and Jeff Hardy. This was the first of, I believe, 2 different angles they did tonight, or 3. They did this 3 different times too. So they did this 3 different times tonight. This is where I thought like the show kept itself from being interesting. When they got there was an issue with this. This alarmed me. Jeff Hardy versus Elias. Elias says he can't do it. He injured his hand in the studio. Then his buddy Jackson Riker replaces him. They have a short little fun match, but he gets hit with a twist of fate. All right. Colin Tessier had a great tweet to us. He's on the crew with WrestleZone. He tweets about who's the character actor in CSI Miami, where he always does the corny puns when they do the opening killing scene or something. He's like, "Oh, he got into that match, but apparently there was a twist of fate." And it was just ridiculous stuff like that. Then Elias picks up a match, and he also loses to Jeff Hardy. Why is Elias and Jeff Hardy still a thing? Jeff Hardy's a big superstar. He can have a personal grudge feud with really cool, intense promos. Now he's just run around there, goof around, jump around with this Nashville clown. And here's the thing, Elias was on the shelf for such a long time. I get it. He had injuries, all these different things. He's still a clown. This thing's done. They already did a pay-per-view match. I don't need to see any more of this, right?
If we have any kind of roster impairments, I think you might see a little bit more of this. And I think it's just a fluid situation, because that's the name of the game here, Kevin. It's all fluid. It's all fluid. Like this one time on Space Mountain. Never mind.
They're gonna have to shut the ride down for a deep clean after that. Come on, Robert. Hey, Robert. Hey, we're in the biz. We're not in that other thing that rhymes with IZ. Come on now. Let's just clean your mind up. All right. Yeah, you thought I was bad. So then we get to the first. They did this with Keith Lee and Miz and Morrison, right? So they did their singles thing. All right. So that's 2 different 20-minute segments on this 3-hour show. All right. So then we get a tease for Matt Riddle, who's a complete goofball. He's Spicoli, right? Have you ever seen Fast Times at Ridgemont High? John Clark, have you seen that movie yet? Robert, have you seen that movie yet? a little bit.
Nachos.
Yeah, nauseous, dude. He's just playing like a stoner dude, and he's pretty good at it. And he cuts a bit about with Lucha House Party where he can't see his own back, and he's like, look out behind you. You know, you don't want to get hurt by the Hurt Business, and it is fine. And he's talking about a pizza place and like how he just feels like if he wins this match, it'll be like he gets a great pizza. Something a stoner would say. I get it. And so he goes out there and he has this match. He gets whomped on by Bobby Lashley. He gets beat up by MVP before the match even starts. And he taps out. Okay, he tapped out. This sucks. He gets robbed. I'm like, he's been going at Bobby Lashley for weeks and getting one-ups on him here. Then he says he wants MVP because MVP cost him the belt and attacked him before the match. All right, that makes sense. But they're going to do that right after the commercial break. This is the third time they did that tonight. They went for match in the commercial. We're gonna have another match with this other scenario and similar people you just saw on screen right after this. And they had actually physically, this is one of my favorite things of the night was just MVP running around in his designer clothes and his dress shoes and walloping Matt Riddle, and Bobby Lashley got in the ring and beat him up. Wasn't much, but in terms of physicality, it's some of my funnest, the most fun in-ring stuff of the night. Does this worry you that we had 3 different segments here? We're talking about this Drew McIntyre situation, and there were several different people we didn't see on the show tonight. We did see T-Bar, and we did see Retribution with Mustafa Ali. He was successful. He took on Xavier Woods. I thought that was the best match in the night, but we saw a lot. We didn't see Kofi Kingston. He's on the shelf with a jaw injury right now. They said that on there. So WWE's got a real serious bench issue. There's worry of a COVID issue. You have somebody like Kofi Kingston who's on the shelf. We didn't see anyone else in the Hurt Business. We didn't see Cedric Alexander or Shelton Benjamin. John, what's going on here? Why are we having to stretch out matches into 2 different matches on the same show?
Because there probably are some issues maybe with COVID and contacts tracing and stuff like that. I do think it's cause for concern when you're having people. And usually it's okay if you got like one person, you know, and like Randy Orton last week was in like 3 different segments. But you're talking about like 5 or 6 people that were in at least 2 or 3 segments tonight. They have way too much depth to need to do something like that.
That's what makes me think. And if it isn't that people tested positive, it's hey, you were exposed.
We didn't see Asuka. We didn't see Asuka. We didn't see Lana. We didn't see any of that.
No, and we didn't see them. And they've been active parts of the show for a long, long time, at least the past few months. Robert, is this a possibility of people being potentially exposed to someone who had COVID? So we're just taking an extra precaution. We're going to put you on the shelf for 2 weeks just to be safe and test you every single day. What do you think's happening here?
Yes. And while we can't say that for a fact,
it's just safely speculative.
I think it's highly, highly concerning that we did see so many of these people work double duty. Mm-hmm. We saw Triple H get pulled tonight. We saw far too many in Case of Fire break glass type scenario, and I think the solution is to merge the brands. Let's merge the brands.
Robert, you're in this merge the brands.
I'm obsessed, and I'll tell you why. You don't need this. We don't need to do this. It's okay. We can merge them, and they can be one, and then maybe if 20 people go down, we're okay. What I'm saying here, Kevin, is we don't need Triple H on TV. We should need a senior citizen Ric Flair on television. We should need Goldberg to hype up the pay-per-view. This is concerning. This is concerning to me as a fan.
It is. And hopefully SmackDown isn't affected. You know, you hope that they're not affected either at this. Another fun match tonight. I enjoyed this. This was set up backstage. There were some little logic issues with it. Backstage, Adam Pearce is talking to AJ Styles. They mentioned, of course, that Adam Pearce is in that whole shabumble at the end of SmackDown that has him somehow taking on Roman Reigns for the Universal Championship over on SmackDown at Royal Rumble. We digress. AJ Styles is saying, you know, maybe you get to fight me at WrestleMania if you find a way to win Roman Reigns. So Drew Gulak interrupts him and says, how come you can just declare yourself for the Rumble? And Pierce says, you know, and he's kind of alluding, he's a big star and you're not. It's kind of like what he's pointing out. And Styles says, I've won the title twice. You know, like, why do I have to explain this to you? and they set up a qualifier match. If Drew can beat AJ Styles with his big friend Omos at ringside, he can do this. Fun interactions, a lot of unique moves. Pearl River Plunge, haven't seen that in a while. Some great interesting stuff, and Drew Gulak falling outside of the ring, only for them to do this big pan-up shot of how big Omos is. They love how to shoot how big Omos is. But he got back in the ring after he was scared of how big Omos was, and he took a flying forearm off the top rope, and he loses. I would have liked Drew Gulak winning this one, right, John Gulak? John Clark? You're not John Gulak. Are you related? I'm talking to
absolutely not. I would not have wanted to see Drew Gulak win. AJ Styles is far superior and should have won that match. It would not make sense for him to lose clean to Drew Gulak.
I'm just saying it would have spiced something up. It would have been
and I'm glad they did something with him. I mean, he got to talk. He wasn't chasing around for the 24/7 championship. He looked somewhat relevant for the first time, probably on Raw ever since he moved from SmackDown. I really, really hope they somehow integrate Omos in the Royal Rumble. I would like him to be in the Royal Rumble. And now I know if he's in the Royal Rumble, we're going to get one of those segments of the match where 10 people grab him and throw him over. It always happens with Big Show, Mark Henry, Kane, the big people like that. Mm-hmm. But I still think it's going to be interesting. They are not really... The Royal Rumble match isn't being as hyped or as relevantly brought up as it has been in recent memory. We're just a little over 3 weeks away. Or a little over, just under 3 weeks away. And we only really have like 6 or 7 superstars confirmed. And we only really have 2 or 3 that we're thinking are actual serious possibilities to win this match.
I'm okay. I'm okay with the idea of not so many people being announced for the matches. And you announce a handful of big names for it. Because the Royal Rumble is still built on surprises. We don't know.
Any other year, I would agree. But since this year there's like no fans, anything like that, I don't think that there need to be that many surprises because nobody's going to react to it anyway.
Robert, where do you stand on the Royal Rumble hype overall coming out of Monday Night Raw? I mean, they got a tough card here. We don't know the COVID situation. Obviously, we talked about Drew. But where do you stand with the Royal Rumble? They did a lot of hyping tonight for him and Goldberg. They're still treating it like another match. Drew McIntyre cut a separate at-home promo, where he accepted Goldberg's challenge. And said that he was really, really old, and then used his catchphrase. You only use someone's catchphrases if you're going to get into a fight with him, right, Robert?
Right. Prior to this COVID thing, I was really excited for the Rumble. I felt like, Adam Pearce and Roman Reigns, you can say what you want. That's fun. I think that's the bee's knees. Like that's just fun. Like, come on.
And more wrestling podcasts need to use the reference bee's knees.
Oh, I'm gonna wear that into the ground by the fifth time we get to the Royal Rumble. And you got McIntyre and Goldberg, and Bill Pritchard said wonderful things about this match.
Boss man Bill Pritchard.
Why he's not excited, and I, for one, I agree, except for the fact that hey, at least it feels like a big deal.
Goldberg and Drew McIntyre feels like a big deal. I don't care what anyone says.
Now you throw in the COVID, and then you're like,
COVID is the third man. It's a triple threat match.
It's not even the third man. It is the cloud hanging above this entire event.
John, this is what they get for making that year-end video, right? They made that year-end video where 2020 was like a big global thing, like from those Mucinex commercials. Remember that?
Yeah.
And Drew McIntyre gave it a Claymore kick. This is that Mucinex animated cartoon coming back for revenge.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, that's what happened. Obviously, we're being silly here. Royal Rumble hype, Monday Night Raw, a few weeks out from WrestleMania, Royal Rumble. We get Triple H in a fight with Randy Orton, a flaming sledgehammer. That's a cool looking gimmick. More flaming sledgehammers. Like more things.
I'm more concerned about the fact that he didn't know. Like, he was holding this hammer, and then all of a sudden he went to raise it, and it's on fire.
John Clark, when does The Fiend return? Do we get The Fiend versus Randy Orton at Royal Rumble, or do we get more or less just a continued angle? They're doing all the fun gimmicks. We've had fireballs. We had people get lit on fire. Alexa Bliss almost got lit on fire. She has a weird, creepy playground. What's the next wild trick they're going to pull out of a Rob Zombie movie on Monday Night Raw?
There is so much that this depends on. It depends on where they're going with Randy Orton. What program is Fiend getting for WrestleMania? Is Goldberg beating Drew McIntyre for the title? if Goldberg does beat Drew McIntyre, I think The Fiend will reappear at the Royal Rumble match, win the Royal Rumble match, and get his revenge on Goldberg at WrestleMania and take the belt. If McIntyre keeps the belt, I can still see Fiend being in the WrestleMania main event, but I don't see him winning the Rumble to get there. I see probably Daniel Bryan winning. But regardless, I don't think we're probably going to see the actual, like, The Fiend on, like, physically at the show probably until the Royal Rumble. But we might get Bray Wyatt before then.
True. We'll see what happens here. I mean, I'll say this. It's certainly something that casual fans are into. I don't know if the hardcore fans are on board, but this is the time of year when they do stuff that casual fans are going to pop for and tune in for coming off football season.
It's hard to pop right now when there's just an abundance of issues, and I'm not even being pessimistic. Genuinely, I want this industry to thrive. Genuinely, I wish we were talking about COVID in the rearview mirror. It concerns me that I feel like we're just getting started.
Mm-hmm. And while we're still looking at a light at the end of the tunnel with vaccine distribution and all those different things. So let's rate this week's Monday Night Raw. I'm going to give it I wanted, especially with Triple H versus Randy Orton, something they didn't confirm until halfway through the show. That was another odd thing. I would have thought on paper this would have gotten a better rating out of me, but everything kind of felt rushed and clunky a bit. But I'm not completely out of it. I do feel like they got dealt a hard card. We don't know the complete issue here. We do know the issue with Drew McIntyre. Let them roll with the punches. Given the show, I'm giving it a 6.8. Can't give it a 7 because there was just some things they did that were a bit redundant. But this is definitely a letdown because last week's Raw I thought was pretty cool with Keith Lee and Drew McIntyre. Great main event. One of the best TV matches on Monday Night Raw in a long, long time. John, what do you give it? 1 out of 10.
Tonight, I'm going to go with a 7.
Oh, I thought we were going to get a 7.5, dog.
No.
Classic 7.5, dog.
No.
Robert, I don't think you're going to dog it up tonight. I don't think we're getting a 7.5 dog out of you.
I'll tell you what. I think we got a 7 from the man, John Clark, up in PA.
6.8 for me.
6.8 from Kevin. And by God, in honor of Space Mountain, I'm going with a very nice.
Don't you say 6.9.
Here's the thing. Here's why I'm 9 and just when you have to pull Triple H and his flaming piece of wood on top of an aging, breaking down Space Mountain. There's only 2 words I've got for you, and I'm not going to say it because I am a wholesome boy. But I will give you a 6.9.
You did the gun point at the end. You're ridiculous. What crowd are you running with now? What happened? I like my fun, innocent Robert DeFelice. The Defiler. That's what we got. We got the new moniker.
You know what? I think we're just gonna stay right past that branding. I don't know if I want to be branded.
I watched The Hobbit last night. They had a big monster name there. So that's where we are. Monday Night Raw. I thought this is fine. Hopefully things settle down. I'm hoping. I mean, this definitely feels like a big wrench has been thrown at Royal Rumble, but they're still acting like we're going to get Drew McIntyre and Goldberg, and Drew was on TV. He looked good. Other wrestling stories we are covering. You mentioned it, Robert. AEW brought up one half of the Young Bucks dealt with COVID. One of them is dealing with a leg injury, and we got a bunch of different hype going on with AEW as they took a hit along with WWE NXT. Robert, I'm covering that every Wednesday with John Clark. John, you and I agreed because of the political situation that happened in Washington, D.C. on Wednesday afternoon, we knew the media cycle for the rest of the week was just going to be about that. And anything entertainment was going to be the other way. And we were absolutely right because AEW lost like almost 500,000 average viewers.
Well, it lost like 33% of viewership. But NXT
and somehow NXT retained their audience. They were up by like 1,000.
It went up.
Yeah. What do you think? What do you think of that? When you have to look at the bounce back, we talk about the college football game tonight.
I think to me that AEW has more of the casual fan, and the casual fan decided I'm gonna watch the news.
Mm-hmm.
Or the casual fan decided they were gonna watch New Year's Evil while they both lost some to.
of that audience did decide they'd watch New Year's Evil.
I think both shows just got beat up by news. You know what I mean? I think NXT deserved a bigger rating for the show they were putting on, which was like a takeover on TV. And so did AEW, because they were coming up on a big week, and they did that big Bullet Club angle at the end of the show. You think you deserve something fun when you give fans big moments like that. But real life stuff comes up. Football season is still going to be a thing. Do we have a football game the night of the Royal Rumble, John?
No, there is no game on the 31st. There's a game on the 24th, and the Super Bowl is the week after the 31st.
All right, so good pivot there. They're trying to get themselves in between NFL games, but that could move around, though, too. With COVID stuff, they could easily move around.
I don't see that happening, though.
Okay. So that's where things are currently. We are covering it all at WrestleZone.com. Do want to remind you, check out the interview with Mr. Man of Money, the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, talking about how he tore the house down in his first match with Bret Hart. Many other interesting stories in our exclusive interview with him right now. You can also check out his virtual signing that he did on Monday night. That's all up on our Facebook page. We have that confirmed list of entrants for the Royal Rumble. Bobby Lashley, Keith Lee, all the action from Monday Night Raw, and much, much more. We do have to get out of here, but I do want to remind you, you want to win these action figures. We're doing it all month long. We're getting Roman Reigns. We're getting Daniel Bryan. Remember that password for people listening on the podcast is Fireball. Fireballs. And then one word and an email in your subject line with your name and where you're from to WrestleZoneSocial@gmail.com. WrestleZoneSocial@gmail.com. Before we get out of here, gentlemen, we're a couple weeks away from the Royal Rumble. You've already mentioned Daniel Bryan. You've already mentioned different people you think are going to win the Royal Rumble. Usually every day on the show, I'll ask people, hey, who's going to win the Royal Rumble at Heffen today? I want to know this. Shake it up here. Mr. Robert D. Felice, what match do you want to see get added to the Royal Rumble card that isn't there yet? How do you want to see this thing get filled out?
Okay.
I have mine. You
know what? Paul Heyman on Talking Smack ripped Apollo Crews a new asshole.
Yes, he did.
I'd like to see Apollo Crews say, hey, Big E, I'm going to smack you in the face and take your belt.
I was going to say that as well. I thought they did a really clever angle on this week's SmackDown where they did the double pin, where Apollo Crews, they both pinned each other and he gets to keep the title because it's a draw, right? And they then went into another match where Big E beat him, vanquished him pretty quickly. John Clark, do you like that they're putting a little bit of a fire under Apollo Crews' ass here, giving him more of a sense of, if you look down on me, you're making a mistake?
Yeah, I do like it. I think it's good for his character, and I think it's good to keep him relevant. I really would like to see them do something with The Miz and his briefcase. I don't know exactly what. I think we're getting a little too close to the whole WrestleMania season where I just don't know if he's going to cash in. And it expires 1 month after WrestleMania. So I don't know if they're going to extend it because he's going to say, well, I didn't get it until whatever. And you know how the lawyers are going to come out.
That would be lame.
Regardless, I think I'll probably cash in at some point between WrestleMania and Money in the Bank. But if I had to add one match to the card, I would probably go with a rematch for the SmackDown Tag Team Championships between the Street Profits and Rude and Ziggler, just to kind of put that to a rest.
Hasn't been a great angle between those two teams, but the matches have been really, really good. I really, really think those were great matches, bell to bell. And I think Dirty Dogs are just a fun, classic bad guy tag team. Nothing reinventing the wheel with them, but two vets you can trust. I know a lot of people have written off Dolph Ziggler since it's been so hot and cold with him in his WWE career. But the guy can still deliver bangers, even in tag team matches. And Street Profits, I think, had the belt a long, long time. They can win him back. It's okay. I wouldn't mind that. That would be a fun kickoff match. Kickoff matches are still pretty cool, guys. By the way, those get seen by a lot of people. Everyone thinks if you're in the kickoff, it's so offensive that you're in the kickoff. It's not that big of a deal. So don't worry about it. Robert, I have a question for you. We're getting busy that weekend of Royal Rumble. We're going to go with these action figures. We are working on something else. We haven't confirmed anything with it, but people are asking about the Yumble. We will get more information about the Yumble if we're going to do it. We'll let you know soon.
If we're going to do it, you'll know.
What? If we're going to do it, you'll know.
You'll know.
Yeah, you'll know. Because I'm expecting people to say, what's going on with the Yumble? And so we'll let you know. Our fast food Royal Rumble, the Yumble, we will let you know what we're doing with it. I do want to know, Robert, where do you stand on doing a watch along with me? A movie watch along. We're gonna do a Royal Rumble watch along. That'll be only on YouTube, by the way. Night of the Royal Rumble. But what do you feel about watching the awful pro wrestling comedy Ready to Rumble, starring one Mr. David Arquette?
First of all, I think we have wildly different opinions of the word awful.
You love this movie?
This movie is a gem and a half. Jimmy King, he's the wrestler. He's the wrestler better than all the wrestlers. Okay? And I need you to put some respect on the name of James Isaac King. I don't think the name is Isaac, but we're going with it. Okay? And I would be honored to watch that film with you, Kevin.
We will be doing that. It'll be live. You guys can watch the movie with us. That'll be coming up in a few weeks. We got to find out where you can watch it. We may have to do the rentable thing too. John Clark, have you seen this movie? I've only seen it in clips. I know how it ends, but I've never seen the movie beginning, middle, and end. John,
no, I have not. Nope.
What do you think we're making a bad mistake? Because every time I make Robert do a watch along, it's always something that has some questionability to it.
I promise you, this is more palatable than the 1998 Halloween Havoc.
So we'll definitely have fun with that in the weeks to come. The Royal Rumble is coming up. Hopefully it's a fun, safe, really great Royal Rumble that hopefully gets us to a very fun WrestleMania. This is the time of year. I think we should still embrace things that are fun. Isn't that normal? Embracing fun? Are we allowed to embrace fun? Are we allowed to be around fun? All right. So we hope you guys are out there staying safe. All right. Being socially distant. John, if they want to follow you on the Twitter machine, where do they go?
John R. Clark 12.
All right, Robert DeFelice, tell them about the 45 different things you do on the internet this week.
Okay, fanboysanonymous.com. Let's start there. Let's go not wrestling. We're doing a watch along of a lot of the James Bond movies. We're calling that series A Review to a Kill.
Dude, let me get on one of those. I watched Dr. No last night. There are so many things. John, you ever see like an old movie? They're like, you could never do that in a movie now.
There's a lot about Dr. No that you cannot do, including 90% of the way James Bond treats women. It's okay, though. So Review to a Kill coming to Fanboys Anonymous. We did a review of Soul. We're going to do a review of Mulan, courtesy of a Patreon. We're going to do a review of Batman Soul the Dragon pretty soon because the movie's out as of now because it's midnight. And that's Fanboys Anonymous. You want to check out the other side of that? That's smartgutmoment.com. Myself, Cal Wiggins, Tony Mango, just reviewed the 2003 Royal Rumble. We're going to do a watch-along of the 1991 Royal Rumble at some point.
Great Rumble. That one has that awesome intro video where Vince loses. It sounds like he's about to have like a coronary where he's yelling, ah! And like the graphics flash at the screen with all the different wrestlers that are in the match. I love that one.
Right. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the good classic Rumble. Up right now on Smart Gut Moment. The Mount Rushmore of Royal Rumble matches. We discussed all of them. We ranked them. It's up there. Of course, there's Fightful.com. Of course, there's WrestleZone.com. If you're going to get your news, please stick to those two sources. Don't go anywhere else. I don't get paid if you go anywhere else. So don't go anywhere else. Okay? Look.
Dinero de Feliz. That's what it is.
Putting money in my pocket, and I thank you for it. And you can follow me on Twitter at DudeFelice. But Kevin, what have you got going on?
I'm working on a couple of different things down the pike, comedy wise. Hopefully, before the end of 2021, I will announce a tour of some kind. And when it's socially distant and safe to do so, hopefully at some point in the summer, working on that. And of course, everything going on at WrestleZone. We have a bunch of different things on the podcast you guys can choose and get into. Let's subscribe to the podcast, by the way. We have like 9 hours of audio every single week. 9 hours. It's all free. It's all quality. It's all good stuff. We're not letting some jabroni put his stuff out. John Clark, what football games are you freaking out about coming up here in the playoffs? Who's winning the Super Bowl? Who's winning the Super Bowl? Tell me what's going on with the footballs. Who's winning the Super Bowl this year? Is it going to be one of those guys from the Buffalo Bills that's power bombing each other outside of the stadium?
Oh God, I hope it's not the Buffalo Bills. As of this moment, I still believe the Green Bay Packers will probably win the Super Bowl over the Kansas City Chiefs. Maybe the New Orleans Saints are a dark horse, but those are my top three. I don't think Buffalo can make it that far.
Once again,
I gotta say real quick.
Mhm.
Miami was screwed out of the playoffs. Chicago should not have been in. I'm done.
See, you know who it was? I'll tell you who it was. I'll tell you who it was, John Clark. Who fucked it up for you?
Washington football team.
No, I was going to say it's Ray Finkel. That goddamn Ray Finkel. That's who did it. Laces out. You know, if it was, it's that goddamn Dan Marino's.
Oh, I got it. Yeah, I got
Sorry,
it.
I had to do a Pet Detective Ace Ventura joke there. A very, very bad one. You guys, once again, the secret password that you want to email to WrestleZoneSocial@gmail.com is Fireball. That is a password only for today. All right. And remember, you get 4 of these every month. You can do these 4 times before we get to the end of January. And you could be one of the lucky people that wins either a Roman Reigns Mattel Elite action figure or a Daniel Bryan Elite Mattel action figure. So pretty cool stuff. That is our January contest before we get ready to rumble. We may yumble. We're going to do a bunch of different things. So a bunch of different fun stuff coming up for you. Thank you so much for listening to the show. Robert.
Yes.
We're so busy. We're so busy.
So busy.
In these trying times, we may get scared. We have to go and watch CNN or MSNBC and see what's the latest thing that we're going to argue with someone on the internet that we don't know about, right? John's like, oh, wait, what's going on? I don't know the news. Maybe go give it a Google. All right. Besides what's going on in the real world, when you're watching the fun fake world of wrestling, you can do this. And what is that, Robert?
Enjoy wrestling.